Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Leeds View Monday morning news for the 1st of September, deadline day, and a very big day for Leeds United. And it's already started this morning. I've turned off all the comments on my X post about this news this morning because people can't keep their intrusive thoughts inside their own heads, and everyone's having a vent already. There's time left in this window. It is deathly quiet, and it is a defining day. Your comments this morning will be down below in the corner as I try and get through this, because if I start reading comments from every second person who's screaming that Leeds aren't going to do anything today, I won't get through this news. And I think if you're that way inclined and you're thinking that, there's probably no point in watching a news video about potential Leeds United signings. So that's where we are this morning. But yeah, we will try and get through some stuff. I will get some comments towards the end if you want to keep them constructive, and we'll have a proper conversation about it towards the end of the video. If you just want to have a rant and a vent and shout that Leeds aren't doing anything, we're not going to have that conversation about your comments on that one. But if you do want to keep them constructive, you can hang on till the end of this video. We'll get through the updates on where we are. And what I'll do is I'll go through each one bit by bit, and then we'll have a little chat about each one, and then we'll see where we are. There was no point in doing a recorded news video this morning because today is likely to change rapidly, and that's on the positive side of things. And I will be fair on this, and I will be balanced on it, because there is a possibility Leeds will do business today, but there's equally another possibility that Leeds fall short and don't get anything done today. So what I'll do is I'll try and be fair and balanced, and I ask the same of you in the comments as well, give us a chance to get through this, and we'll see where we are, because until the window closes, Leeds still have an opportunity to get deals done. And until they can't do them, we have to give them the opportunity to at least do them. The thing about Leeds not signing anyone, Leeds have signed 10 players already this summer. We're looking for 2 more. Leeds are looking for 2 more players to finish this window off. If you could stick a like on the video as well, that would be super happy as well. That would appreciate it. I would appreciate it as well. But yeah, we'll start off though, I suppose. There's a couple of names floating around this morning. There's some clarity on some, but the most of the stuff is pretty muddy, especially on that man there, Eduard Spertsyan. There's a lot of reports this morning about this, and it's I'm going to close the comments because they're already distracting me. There's a lot of mixed reports on Eduard Spertsyan already this morning, so it's not clear on him. The land Bakwa's name popped up again, but mostly because of what's happened at Nottingham Forest. We've got updates on Kristantos Uche, who I've been trying to manifest into existence. And I don't think necessarily it was a Leeds target trying to manifest into reality. It's been very much me in the last couple of weeks. I would like Kristantos Uche, but to be honest, he doesn't really fit what Leeds are looking for right now, and not a priority signing for Leeds, which is probably why he's going elsewhere. Manor Solomon's name come back up again. We got some detail on that. I'll give you some conversation on that. Gustavo Hamer or Hamer, whatever's going on with that situation, I'll give you an update on that as well. And then Mario Strikins as well, another name that's popped up, as well as some exit talk this morning between Darko JB and Ilan Melier. So yeah, let me know where your head's at this morning. Again, try and keep it constructive. There's no point in just saying we're not going to do anything, because, if we do, that comment's not going to last or age very well, is it? So just let me know what you think. But we'll start off with Eduard Spertsyan. He's the man on the screen right now, and we'll talk about him. Over the course of the weekend, there's been an awful lot of noise about Eduard Spertsyan. There's been reports coming out of Armenian news whether Leeds could make a move for him. They were saying that Leeds would make a move. The situation around Eduard Spertsyan is he is an Armenian player. He is not a Russian player. The situation in Russia is complicated. Players can leave and have their deals expunged over there if they let the clubs know in advance of the season, which I don't believe that he has done that. The other situation is Leeds can't just give them money because their owner is under sanctions due to the Russia-Ukrainian war. So what has to happen there is, if Leeds do want to get a deal done for him, and it's not that easy to do, it's quite complicated, the money would have to go into an escrow account in order to get the deal done. The money stays there until after the war between Russia and Ukraine has ended, and then they get that money at that point, but they won't get it before then. And that's the kicker on that one. So not a straightforward deal, and we'll have to see where it goes. But bring up the speed. Armenian News said Leeds are likely to make a move. There was an inquiry. Leeds have looked at Eduard Spertsyan since January last year. He's having a fantastic start to the season in the Russian Premier League. He has 4 goals and 8 assists in 7 games. He got an assist yesterday during their game, but comments that he made after the game yesterday are pretty much what's thrown the cat amongst the pigeons this morning, and sent everyone into a little bit of a panic. He was asked after their game last night about a move away from Krasnodar to England. Leeds weren't mentioned specifically, and that's really important to make that point, that Leeds weren't mentioned in this, just the possibility of a move. And instead of talking about Leeds and a move to Leeds, Spertsyan focused on the failed move to Southampton that was linked earlier in the transfer window that didn't go through and didn't happen, which was really interesting. He basically said that he would keep an eye on it and that a move in the winter window could happen, and we'll see what happens in winter, that he liked the Championship and the Championship was a good league, and he spoke about Southampton, but he didn't really talk about Leeds, which is interesting. Now, again, we're trying to put 2 and 2 together here and get 4, but we're likely to get 10 on this. Leeds like doing their business in secret. They like doing it in quiet. There was the issues, obviously, with Buonanotte at the back end of last week. So Leeds are trying to keep everything as quiet as possible as to not lose out on players at this point. And maybe he was asked not to discuss this. Maybe he was asked to keep it quiet because the manager was also asked after the game about the possibility of him joining an English club. And he said if an offer was to come in, there would be a handshake and they would let him go. They weren't going to stand in his way. And the president has said pretty much the same thing. There's an update this morning. I'll try and get it here from the YEP from Kyle Newbold. I'll keep my phone in front of me this morning as well in case anything does pop up early, but it's unlikely to be until the afternoon. Basically, what he said on Spertsyan was Armenia International continued his fine form yesterday with a 1-1 draw against CSKA Moscow. He addressed the offer from Southampton after the game, not Leeds United. And the quote will no doubt be of interest to Leeds fans. He said, the owner said, "We are happy that Spertsyan is staying. The offer was serious, but the negotiations didn't go far." And that relates to Southampton, not to Leeds, which is interesting. Now, again, there's nothing concrete on the ground. Barron Cross linked Leeds with a move for Spertsyan. In a small piece at the end of an article, it was a throwaway piece of going, one of the names Leeds have looked at. And we know we've looked at him for quite some time. So at the moment, he's not going anywhere. Or at least that's what he's saying. If Leeds are trying to keep everything quiet and their powder dry, then maybe that is what's going on with him. But it is interesting. The other point to this is Leeds have got a 24-man squad right now, so they will need to free up a space as they bring in 2. Daniel Farke said after the game at the weekend he wants 2 attacking players. And if we're being honest, and this is the editorial piece of this, if we're being honest at this point of the window, I believe the business that Leeds have done so far has been very, very good. Leeds have kept 2 clean sheets in their opening 3 games. Leicester City kept 3 clean sheets in the entirety of last season, and Ipswich only kept 2 all season. So the building from the back and that defensive solidity is important, and I think they've done a really good job of that so far. But this entire window will be framed on what Leeds United do today. If Leeds don't get the attacking players that they need, as Daniel Farke said, it will be a tricky season. The window for me, if I was to measure it outside of today and outside of the attacking players, is probably a 7 out of 10 for me in terms of the defensive stuff we've done. But if Leeds fail to finish this window off, and if they don't get the gaps filled, then for me, this window drops to a 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, because there's no point in having defensive solidity if you cannot get the attacking players in that you need. And Leeds will need to get that done today. There is a lot of pressure on them. Parag Marathe is in the UK. Jed York, the top guy of the 49ers Enterprises, is also in Leeds, as is Maury Eisenberg, who's the Leeds COO, the man that controls the purse strings for Leeds. They're all in Leeds today. They've been in Leeds over the weekend. So you would think that they're in there to at least try and make sure that Leeds can get some deals over the line. Spertsyan's the one that will be very exciting. Spertsyan's an out-and-out number 10. He doesn't sort the right-hand side winger issue, but he is very much a number 10. And yeah, that's that one. So we'll see what everyone's saying at the moment about this. We'll try and work back because there's a lot of comments. Good morning to everyone. And we'll try and go through a few of them. Busy day ahead, says Steph. Let's hope it's a really busy day. And we'll see where we go. Sunderland are making moves today. Sunderland can lose a player yesterday and sign a new player today. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see how it finishes up. And that's the part. There's no point in judging anything until it's closed. But it is a possibility. It is. And then that's a real problem. It's a real problem if Leeds. Do we think we'll get any new players? I mean, the hope is a minimum 1. To get none, it's a failure. It's a massive failure if they don't get any in. And I'll get to Manor Solomon in a minute, because I think if Manor Solomon comes in, then that probably says to me Leeds couldn't get any of the other targets that they wanted. And Manor Solomon was still available, and they just got him for the sake of getting him, but doesn't fix the issues for Leeds United. Morning, Karen says, good morning, Jer. Countdown has begun till the end of the transfer day. PBDS striker. I don't think Leeds United get a striker, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you on the striker position. At this point, Leeds could have prime R9 Ronaldo in their side, and without someone to create chances for him, he ain't going to score goals. So for me, the striker is not the priority for Leeds United. Is not the priority. For me, Leeds' priority has to be players that are going to create opportunities for our strikers. We've got 3 of them, and we've got 4 if you include Harry Gray in that. DCL, Mecha, Piru, and then maybe Harry Gray. All of them can score goals. All of them can score goals, but they've got to have chances created for them. And unless Leeds fix that issue, if we come out of this window with a number 9, doesn't solve the problem. Doesn't solve the problem for me. So that is where the issues will be. Do I think that we'll sign more than 1? I hope for 2, but my brain says 1. Private flights into LBA. There are 4 flights due into LBA today. Paris, Brussels is one. We'll talk about Brussels because there's a potential name that's popped up there. We'll have to see how we go. Michael Pollard, players being sent out on loan are told that they aren't part of the plans, but the recruitment can't fill the gaps. Got to get players off the wage bill as well because of PSR, and people have to realize that has to happen. And I was wondering why the 3 players towards the back end of last week went, and that might have been a clearing of the deck for some money. Tanya, Tanya, haven't felt overly good about the entire window. Let's be honest about that, but we'll see where we go today. But I get where you're coming from. We'll have to look at that. Matthew Hamer there to be done, and even Sargent isn't happening, lads. I don't know where people keep looking at Football Insider and believe what they say. They've never been right about anything. I think ever, really, to be honest with you. So, Mr. Whitesnake, Steve, good evening or late evening for you as it is where you are. Always been fair and balanced, the voice of reason. Moniker, I am quite calm and okay. We'll get going. Let's hope we do. But yeah, there's loads of comments there. We'll see where we go. Lee saying there, AJ, would you be happy with Solomon or Hamer? I'd be very happy with Gus Hamer because I think Gus Hamer gives you lots of options. Number 8 in midfield. He can also play as a 10. You could operate him on the wing if you wanted to, but I would rather see him central. If you look at the game against Newcastle, how many chances did we have to have shots from distance? And that's Gus Hamer's wheelhouse. So for me, I would take him. This moniker that he's overweight, he's not. Guys from South America, just a bit thick, big bum, solid player, strong player, So for me, I would do that. Morning, Kels. Kels says number 10 needed all window and still not done. Kels, the argument could be that there's been a number 10 needed for about 3 windows. But we'll have to see where we go with that. At the moment, we're not playing with number 10, so it's not a vitally important position, but a player that can play right wing and 10. And that's the issue. That's exactly where we are with this, Kels. The priority position for Leeds United is a right winger who can also play as a 10. That fixes 2 problems in 1. And then maybe you go get a striker at that point. But that's got to be fixed on that side right now. So we'll see where we are. 700 people watching. Good morning to everyone. I hope you're all having a good day and have a nice weekend. If you could smash the like button, that would be fantastic for me. Would really help me out here as well. Matt Sanger, I thought I saw last night that Hamer was going to PSV. We will talk about that. We'll move on. Let's talk about Dylan Bakwa first and get into his information because it popped up again last night. Dylan Bakwa was due to go to Nottingham Forest. That looked like it was all done and dusted, but that move collapsed yesterday. Now, that's not to say that move won't get reignited. Deadline day, these things happen, deals fall through, and then all of a sudden they get done towards the back end of the window. The deadline today, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, is 7 p.m. this evening. So they've got to get a move on with that. But Dylan Bakwa could still happen to Nottingham Forest. Leeds have had an interest in him all summer. You're looking at about 25 million euros. So that's about 21 million pounds. Leeds probably have the cash to get that deal done. They've minded their pennies all summer. So you're hoping that money is floating around to get the final bits and pieces done on that. But it is an interesting one. He is a right winger. He is a dynamic right winger. He can cut inside and smash balls. He would help us significantly with that side of the pitch. Leeds have talked all summer about trying to bring in a difference maker, and Bakwa would very much be a difference maker. The issue here is Bakwa might want European football, and we can't offer that. And if that's on the table and any player wants that, then that gets removed first. That's off the table. So that's going to be the context. So people who can turn around and say, oh, we've missed out on another one. We've missed out on this guy. We've missed out on this guy. If they want European football, we haven't missed out. We've just been out negotiated, I suppose, because they want to play in something that we can't offer them. So that's the context of that one. But Dylan Bakwa is still a name floating around until he's not. It's an interesting one. Will be an exciting signing for Leeds to get done. Is a very, very good player. And we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, that's where we are with Dylan Bakwa. I am still including him just until it doesn't get done. Bakwa will be a no-brainer if we can get him. John, if we can. But again, it's that thing about trying to attract a player who might want to play at a higher level or play European football. There's no way Blunderwood gets Bakwa done. I don't get the Blunderwood stuff. He signed 10 players. It's just whoever put that out on the internet first and now everyone else is copying it. It's childish, I'm being honest about it. Hamer and Bakwa done, hopefully. Hamer was in the Dutch Grand Prix yesterday. He was. Yes, he was. Muniz is not happening. Will be done. But no, he won't. No, he won't. Muniz is expected to sign a new deal at Fulham. Leeds have tried to sign him all summer. Haven't been able to get him. No one has. No one has been able to get him. I think the bids from Italy went as high as £40 million for him. Didn't happen. They've flight private out of Leeds to Lorient. Yeah, that could be from Elliot. We'll have to see what that. We'll get to the outgoings as well. And we are too slow to make a move. We don't know that. Like, we genuinely don't know that. None of us know what's going on behind the scenes because nothing is being said. We're feeding off rumor, and that's all we're feeding off right now of whatever a journalist is telling us. And a lot of the players that are being linked may not be players that Leeds are even in the market for. But all we have, because of the silence the club operates under, all we have are rumor to operate on. And unfortunately, that's how we have to go. Too quiet, says Frank. And I would hope, Frank, that means they're really busy and that something is pending. That has been the case before in the past. How much would I pay for Hamer? I would pay upwards to £20 million. That's the British tax, I suppose, you put on a player at this stage. But yeah, 15, 20 million is what's being discussed. Openda's off to Juventus. Vlahovic to Leeds. He hasn't really been mentioned, but maybe. Any news on players leaving? There's a couple of stuff on them as well. We'll get to all of them if we can in time. Rice Alger, are you confident anyone coming in? I still think we'll get one done. And I'm operating on probably hope. And that's being honest about it. I'm not going to, say anything else. I am probably just operating off hope here because I'm trying to look at it logically. If you look at the investment that's needed, or the investment that's gone in from 49ers Enterprises, from Red Bull as well, all of them need Leeds to stay in the Premier League. If Leeds get relegated, all of them lose significant amounts of money. It makes getting more investment even harder. It means they have to put more of their own money in to keep this ticking over. It means all the players they've already bought this summer goes into a fire sale in the summer, because if we do go down, you look at a three-year PSR window with, again, 2 years in the Championship and 1 year in the Premier League. And that's a problem for them, major problem for them. So it is in everyone's interest to get this window done. I don't think it's a coincidence that the big dogs are in Leeds today. I think they're probably there to try and make sure Leeds can get these deals over the line and finalise a couple of them. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, I'm just giving you what I think at this point because there isn't any facts out there at the moment. Let's talk about Manor Solomon. That's the next one to have a quick chat about. And again, reports today say that he is still an option for Leeds United. The player has said himself over the last couple of days he wants to stay in England and he wants to stay in the Premier League. And this is an interesting one because this is kind of being of his own making to a degree. Manor Solomon went back to Tottenham Hotspur at the end of last season. Leeds tried to get a deal done for Solomon immediately after promotion was sealed. The player wanted a full summer at Spurs to try and impress Thomas Frank because he wants to play in the Champions League. And that is absolutely fine. The player has ambition. No issue with me at all. Thomas Frank also was very impressed with what he saw from him last season in the Championship with Leeds, and he wanted to have a proper look at him as well. So Manor Solomon coming to Leeds any time outside of today was off the table. They wanted a full pre-season to look at him, and he wanted a full pre-season with them. Now, where we are is with this, Solomon picked up a calf injury very early on in pre-season. He hasn't featured for Spurs really in pre-season, so they didn't really get a chance to look at him. He hasn't really had a chance to impress, and it looks now like that he will move on. Earlier in the window when Leeds did try and make a move, Daniel Levy tried to put a bit more money on top of what was then at the time rumoured to be about a £20 million fee. Leeds said that wasn't going to be a fee that they were going to pay, and everything went quiet. At this point of the window now, Manor Solomon still hasn't moved anywhere, and there's talk that he could be available on a possible loan. Now, where I stand with this situation is Leeds' issues and what Leeds need to prioritise in the remaining hours of the window is a right-sided winger who can come in on his left foot. Manor Solomon doesn't do that. He's a left-sided winger who comes in on his right foot. We've got Noah Okafor. We've got Jack Harrison. We've got Willie Gnonto, all on that side of the pitch. On the right-hand side, we've got Dan James. We need another one on that side of the pitch who can come inside. We also need someone who can play maybe as a 10. Again, Manor Solomon doesn't tick that box. Has he played as a 10? Yeah, successfully. Not really. Did a job for Leeds for a couple of games, but nothing spectacular in the Championship. Would not solve Leeds' problems for me there. If Leeds hadn't signed Noah Okafor and we brought in Manor Solomon, I'd be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. He's a player that can come in onto his right foot. He likes to shoot. He can make a difference. He's an electric player, would do well in the Premier League, has proven he can do well in the Premier League before. But the issue for me is that's not the position Leeds need to sort in this few hours. Leeds need the other side of the pitch and potentially even an out-and-out number 10 or a striker. Again, positions that Manor Solomon doesn't sort for Leeds. And that's where we are with this. Just to update you on two players that were linked and have gone elsewhere. Christantis Uche is having a medical right now with Crystal Palace. So that's off the table. And again, he wasn't the player that leads again into that bracket of what Leeds actually need in this window. Uche wasn't the player that Leeds needed. He's a number 8. He's possibly a 10, but he is an 8 more so than anything else. Leeds didn't need that. They weren't looking for that. So there's very strong possibility that Christantis Uche wasn't even on Leeds' radar for that position. So I want him because he's cheap and he's a very good player. And Getafe have financial issues, and I thought, why not go and get him? But that doesn't mean Leeds were looking at him. Bilal El Khanous, Leeds did look at him. He's gone to Stuttgart on a season-long loan with an obligation to buy. That could be over £25 million. We'll see what happens with that one. But that looks like Leeds just withdrew from that process very early on after initial inquiries. And it doesn't look like Leeds continued moving forward with that. But they're both gone. And we'll see what happens with them. Move on to talk about the major one that's been talked about for a while now, and especially over the weekend. That's Gustavo Hamer. Before we get to Hamer, just jump back into the comments for a real quick second, see what people are saying. Stephen is saying, I get the feeling we will be doing more mental gymnastics than a Russian tumbler today. I think probably likely as well. Andrew, good morning. Fantastic video so far. Appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks very much. PBDS, Manor seems to be a no man's land with Spurs. He really does. No future there. Was linked very heavily with a move to Sheffield United, but wants to stay in the Premier League. But he did say that last year and then ended up at Leeds. So, yeah, we'll see. Bakwa, the last minute crazy signings on the last ended around 5 years ago. Yep, they are generally quiet now due to clubs getting business. I think today could be carnage, being very honest. There's a lot of deals that a lot of clubs have been trying to do all summer that they haven't got done. And I think you could see an awful lot of money spent today, and it will be interesting. Harrison is a right winger, though, but he's not. He's played on the left wing for Everton, and he's played on the left wing for Leeds. And so far, when Leeds have used him this season and in pre-season, he was the left side and he played left back, never on the right-hand side. So that's the point. Unless they decide to move him over there, and maybe they do. But at the moment, he's on the left. What right-hand side winger would you go and buy? I like Bakwa. I really like Dylan Bakwa. I think he's a really good player. He's a really exciting player. I'd love to have him. Get Solomon, Elliott, and Sargent. You're not getting Harvey Elliott. Too expensive. Sargent, I would be shocked if he goes anywhere. Apparently, he's going to Ipswich. Sideways move for him. Nanto can play on the right. I'd like to see him on the right. If we don't get our deals done, he might have to play on the right. But this is where we go with Yorkshire Peacock. This is where we're into that bracket of, we have players who can play places, which is very Leedsy. I want players that do play places. Like that's his position, bespoke players, bespoke positions, not someone who could possibly play there or do a job. And that's what I don't want to hear today. Yeah. As it presently stands, Leeds are rubbish. I think Willie plays better on the wing. And this is fine, Jason. And anyone who's saying about Willie Nanto on the right-hand side, you're right. You're absolutely right. He can play on the right-hand side, and he's very good on the right-hand side, and he's probably better on the right-hand side. However, he doesn't play on the right-hand side for Leeds. We could have kept Ramazani, and Nanto could stay, but again, could have, maybe, potentially could play there. And that language is the problem. Because for me, I want someone who does play there, week in, week out, bespoke player, where he can make a mark. And we'll see where we go. 10, the money for Okafor and Justin is not comparable to Muniz and Pajot. Now, on the Pajot money, Leeds did say that money was there for a very special player and wouldn't be made available for everyone. So that was a case of finding extra money to get a really special player in who you just weren't going to say no to, who was available all of a sudden, whose price point actually worked for you. That doesn't mean that money is floating around and freely available for everybody else. But that's not to say there isn't still money there. There should be. There should be. And again, they've been talking about Muniz all summer, and that's 40 million pounds-ish, 30, 40 million quid. So there's still that money should still be floating around there somewhere. But there's also wages there as well. So we'd have to keep an eye on that. Wanderlust making a very good point here. His report that we can't spend any more money due to PSR. One loan is an option. No, I don't think so. I think there is money to spend. But the wages need to be considered as well, and there does need to be consideration put in for PSR. But I don't think we're there with that at this point just yet. So, yeah, trying to get to a couple of more real quick. Russ, good morning, mate. Leeds United move for Hamer on deadline day, according to sources in Sheffield. Yeah, I'll get to that. Jared, it's all over Twitter that JB is set to go to Hull on a permanent. Good for him. Good for him. We'll get to that now in a sec. Let's talk about Gus. So the information that we were all given towards the back end or middle of last week, that Leeds were actively looking at Gus Hamer. There was active negotiations going on there, and that Leeds would be looking at a loan move for Gus Hamer with an obligation to buy at the end of season between 15 to 20 million euros. So that's about 13 to 17-ish million pounds there or thereabouts. And then it went quiet over the weekend, or yesterday specifically. Gus Hamer was pictured in Amsterdam for the F1 Grand Prix. And there was talk that PSV Eindhoven, who had been interested in him all summer, had finally made their move for him and that they would be bringing him in. However, there was a picture on one of the Sheffield sites last night of Gus Hamer on an airplane back to the UK late last night. And maybe he comes into Leeds today. That would be one that you would imagine Leeds could get done, assuming that PSV are no longer interested in him. One of the PSV newsletters, so again, more so an aggregate fan site than anything really credible, they said that the fee is going up and that Sheffield United wants £15 million for him and that PSV weren't likely to pay that, which meant that the door was open for Leeds if they could pay that and wanted to pay that. Leeds have been aware of Hamer for a while. Leeds would know what the price tag on Hamer is for a while, and we'll see what they can get done. Baz is saying that he wouldn't fancy him himself. I would, but again, it depends on where you want to play him. As an 8 or 10, I would, because he is a creative player. He does have a wand of a right foot on him. Like, he's got a cracking shot on him. And he can take set pieces, which we don't have. So he ticks an awful lot of boxes for us. Graham Bailey is saying, yeah, but Graham Bailey said Mateo Joseph was going to Betis. Graham Bailey's been wrong again on so much stuff this summer. Graham Bailey is not a credible source when it comes to transfers. So he was the one that said that Joseph was done and dusted to Betis for £8 million. He went to Mallorca on loan. So not to say that it won't happen, Chris. It could happen. PSV are floating around him. He was at the Grand Prix yesterday. However, he was pictured on a flight back to the UK. And that could just be a case of he's got his work done with PSV and he's come back to England to pick up his stuff and say his goodbyes and do all that bits and pieces. Maybe possible as well. But there is a possibility still that Leeds could get this one done. And you're not going to hear about it until it's done today. That's going to be the issue with this. So there's that one. The surprise name that popped up this morning, and this is, again, as I always say, pinch of salt with this one. It's in the rumour mill territory. But a name that has been mentioned this morning is Mario Strykens from Anderlecht. Strykens is a good player. He's a young player. And he is someone Leeds had a look at last year as well. And that's possibly where this link is coming from. That, again, in a day where everything is really, really quiet, that the journalists, to try and get some column inches, are now pulling at straws and picking up old moves from Leeds United. We'll give you news on Darko JB in a second as well. But Mario Strykens is another one that has been mentioned. There is a flight due into Leeds this morning from Belgium, which is possibly, again, where this one is coming from. But an interesting one, his contract is winding down as well, and Leeds could get a deal done for Mario Strykens. Number 10 for me, can play wide as well. Will be an interesting player, but is an exciting one. And that's where we sit on the incomings. Now, Alexander Mitrovic has also been mentioned again this morning. The situation around Mitrovic is basically that he's a free transfer. So he's getting his contract cancelled at the Saudi Pro League. They're paying him out to get him off their books because they don't want him anymore. He's had a phenomenal time over there. He's got a bag load of goals. Fulham have also looked at him as well and the possibility of going back to his old club. But he doesn't need to be done today. As a free transfer, Leeds can take their time on that one and do it over the next 2 weeks before they come back after the international break. So that doesn't need to be done today. So they could still do that one. Again, the issue on the squad size is a conversation. There's 24 players there right now. They can only register 25. So someone may need to go out who's not currently in the squad, or who is currently in the squad. Or Leeds could deregister Alex Cairns and use Rory Mahadi as the backup goalkeeper from the under-21s. He's under 21 years of age. He's only 18. Good, solid young keeper. Very good for your under-21 so far again this season. But that would free up a space to get to it. They could be creative there. It's harsh on Alex Cairns, but Alex Cairns might be transitioning into more of a coaching role at the club and might just be happy to be around the place in some capacity. But it is harsh on him and we'll have to see. There's 1,200 watching. Good morning to everyone. I hope you're all well and excited that we get something done today and you're holding on to that little bit of hope. And it is the hope that kills you, unfortunately. But if you could smash the like button, that would be really helpful for me today. It's going to be a strange day. We have got the deadline day stream today from 5 o'clock into the last hour of the window. And then again, we'll go an hour afterwards as well to talk about the window into 7 p.m. as well. So 8 p.m. as well, after that. So 6 o'clock, till 7 till 8 then for the stream. Tonight there is a placeholder on the channel as well. You can stick a notification on that if you want to. Also, anyone who hasn't been seeing the videos over the last couple of days, YouTube did roll out a new update and it's really impacted negatively a lot of content creators. If you look down below where the subscribe button is, there's a little bell icon beside that and an arrow. If you press the arrow down and press that bell, that will notify you of any new videos that the channel puts up and also let you know when we go live. Again, later on, if anything dramatic happens, you'll get that information. Let's get to the exits, and let's talk about Darko JB. So there is news this morning. I'll read this out to you as it comes in. And he's been linked with a lot of clubs over the last couple of days. He's been linked with Metz in France, Lorient in France, as well as Wrexham and Hull City. But according to Hull City Live today, and I'll read you what they say. They say Hull City are in pole position to strike a deal to sign Leeds United midfielder Darko JB on loan, and could prove to be his final arrival of the summer. Hull Live understands that JB is due at the club's Cottingham training ground on Monday to complete the formalities of his switch to the West Yorkshire outfit, providing there is no issues. The Tigers have been able to agree a deal on the youngster despite working under strict transfer constraints this summer, and JB will become the second player to arrive from Ellen Road this summer following the arrival and return of Joe Gelhardt ahead of the season opener. Gelhardt, who scored again the weekend, for Hull City. So, yeah, Leeds look like they're going to send him out on loan. I think he's got a year left on his deal, and it could be maybe a loan with an obligation there as well, or an option to buy at the end of it. But it does look like Darko JB, who's not part of the current 25-man squad, will leave Leeds United on loan. And there's that one. And then the other one to speak about this morning is our goalkeeper. And that's Illan Meslier and what his future holds. And according to the information right now, there's a flight booked to Lorient, as has been said, into France. So he could be on his way back to his hometown club. Carlos Corberan at Valencia, who knows Illan Meslier really well, he could be somebody that looks to bring Meslier back over to Valencia. He is looking for a goalkeeper as well, and he knows Illan Meslier very, very well, and could try and kickstart his career and get the best out of him, as he did with the Leeds United under-21s and his first season when he was part of Marcelo Bielsa's coaching staff as well. So there's that one there from Meslier. There was also interest from that club in Turkey that we won't talk about. And apparently the rumor that came out last night is they did express an interest in him, and Leeds dismissed their interest immediately. And for me, when it comes to that club, Leeds should never do business with them at all. We should never give them money, and we should never accept any money from that club, ever. We should just not do business. Some people will say that's stubborn, but I don't believe it is. I think it's the right thing to do, considering what happened with that club and how they've behaved since then. So yeah, that's just that option for him as well. So Lorient, Valencia, looks like Lorient is the most obvious one for him. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and you feel that should the deadline pass tonight and Illan Meslier still be at the club, then you're possibly looking then at a mutual termination of his contract and letting him go on free, similar to what they did with Patrick and Bamford. Danny Hay this morning in the Sheffield Star's got an update on Gustavo Hamer. We'll go through that briefly before we wrap up this morning. I won't keep it too much longer. There's no point in waffling for the sake of waffling. So Sheffield Star, Sheffield United's transfer deadline day state of play. Ruben Sellers obviously under pressure there. I'll try and scroll and get to the part of this that's interesting. Okay. So Sheffield United transfer deadline day state of play amid Gus Hamer exit fears and incoming hope. If Verman was lured away before deadline day, then the Dutch giants PSV Eindhoven were likely to firm up their interest in Hamer. There is talk that Verman will stay at PSV at this point. But the latest notices from PSV are telling the Bees that Verman is not for sale, and whether that is a definitive stance or not will remain to be seen over the course of the remainder of today's window. At the time of writing, indications are that the biggest threat to Sheffield United hopes of keeping Hamer are a lot closer to home, or just up the M1 to be precise. Leeds United are also big admirers of Hamer, and having made a cheeky bid last season, may return again today on deadline day. The project would not be the same the project would not have the same emotional ties as a move to PSV, and a chance of playing again the Premier League would hold obvious appeal for the player, who was keen to test himself at the highest level, with the added bonus that he would not face too much upheaval. Gus Hamer would not have to move house. Now, I know a couple of people in and around this. The information that I got again at the start of the week was that Leeds would go for a loan move for Gus Hamer with an obligation to buy at the end of the season. And that would kick the PSR can down the road and free up cash to make another move. Hamer wouldn't have to move house. Somebody that I know quite well, who helps out with this channel from time to time, knows Gus Hamer's neighbour in Sheffield, and they said that Hamer is most likely to move to Leeds United. And then there was another person, I think it was said in the square ball as well, Dan Moylan asked one of the hierarchy that was sitting in front of him yesterday at Leeds, are you looking forward to transfer deadline day? And he scooped, and he basically, with a cheeky grin on his face and a wink in his eye, said we're going to do everything we can over the course of the window. So Gus Hamer to Leeds United is still a very strong possibility this morning, and probably the most likely one should, and these are your dominoes, so keep an eye out for these today. If PSV don't sell Verman to Brentford, then Gus Hamer doesn't go to PSV. And then he possibly comes to Leeds United. And I think for Leeds, go get that one done if it's there to be done. And then if there's money left over, if it is a loan, then go and get your big one. If it is a Bakwa, which would be great to see come in, unlikely, but great to see that one come in. But it's going to be an interesting day, folks. I'll go through a few comments towards. If I haven't got to your comments today, I apologize. There's an awful lot. There's 1,200 people watching again. If you could press the like button, that would be great. If there's a hype button down there, you can press that as well. Lewis St. Jerry, before you finish up, rumors of Harry Wilson around this morning. Great to hear your thoughts. Good player, Lou. Good player, Harry Wilson. Played for Fulham at the weekend. Did start for Fulham at the weekend. We'll have to wait and see. Appreciate that, June. Thank you very much. Any news on a number 10? It's going to be Hamer, I think. I don't think Spertsyan's off the table. But the comments are the player's likely to stay where he is. But that could still happen. And if Leeds brought in Spertsyan and Hamer, does that fix the right side of problem? Or does, again, as everyone has said, does Willie head over that direction? Maybe we'll have to wait and see. Whitesnake, obviously, I will be sleeping through this, so enjoy your day. I'm back tonight, Steve, as well. And give me a text if you want, Steve. We can keep in touch, mate, if you want some details on stuff as it comes up today. We'll have a chat. Clayman is saying, Jer, I've got a bad feeling in my stomach. Why on earth Hamer wasn't done 4 weeks ago? I don't think it was a case of needing to get done 4 weeks ago. It was a case of whether the player was available. You've got to listen to what Leeds have said over the course of the window. And again, I say this because I believe it. Leeds move in fairly logical moves right now. It was said early on the window that Leeds could get a championship player if they wanted to. They were trying to get better than that. And Leeds have been ambitious this summer, but unfortunately that ambition has fallen short because these players that they're trying to get who are higher level want European football, your likes of your Igor Pageaus and that. And there's nothing you can do about that. There's a hierarchy and a pecking order, and we're not up here anymore. We're still down here. And until we close that gap over the next couple of years, it's about building along the way. So we'll have to wait and see. 49ers are pulling out. No, they're not, mate. They're not. They're not even. If they were to, again, logic dictates here. If they did pull out, they make a loss because Leeds are not in a better position necessarily right now than they were when they bought them. So they don't make any money, and everyone that's invested loses money. So the investors would be against that. That's not going to happen. And again, they've got money on the table for the stadium development right now as well. So yeah, but understand the bad feelings. It's that kind of a day, and it's very quiet. So until there's anything else, we won't know about it. I'd make that club in Turkey pay $5 million to talk to us. Yeah, and then tell them to go away. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Spike Lee's laughed at everyone and now becoming worldwide. I'm going to stop putting them comments on the screen because I don't believe they're even close to being true. Russ, 4 private jets are booked into LBA today from Paris, London, and Brussels and Birmingham. I mean, there's still the Kobe Mainoo conversation from that club across the Pennines as well. That would just annoy them. I'd take him just to wind them up. And he's under 21, so it doesn't need to be registered, which would be good. Clive, good morning, mate. Let's hope Leeds don't start waffling. Let's splash. I'll be very honest on this. I've held my powder for the entirety of the summer. I haven't got wound up when we haven't done business for periods of time. But at the end of this window, if Leeds don't do anything today, then this window's been a failure. And it will be an incredible grind. Do I think the team is strong enough to keep us in the Premier League? Probably. But I think not getting the players in and the attacking side of the pitch makes it increasingly harder to do that. And if they don't do this, I'll be very honest at the end of this that it's not been good enough. But we have to give them the chance to get to the end of the window before we can make that statement. Looking all over the news, and here's Jeremy. Good morning, mate. How are you doing? Hope you're well. Got a feeling Pirro could be gone. Yeah, I'm there as that. I only think Pirro goes if Leeds bring in another striker. Someone goes out, someone comes in. But only if a striker comes in. Totally agree that we don't do anything with that club. Great stuff. I agree with that. That club can go and jog on. Great stuff. I agree with that as well. Mikey is very orange here. My concerns is that we're skinned. I don't think we're skinned. I think it's just we've just found it hard to get the players we want. The ones we really are the top end of it. And I don't have an issue with the club being overly ambitious. They should be. Great to see that. But at the same time, it hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out. And it might do in the future, but it hasn't right now. This is not Farke's fault. This is not Farke's fault. Can't blame the manager on this. He has the players that he asked for. They can't give them to him. They haven't given them to him. But we have to get in. You have to give them until the end of the window. Harry Wilson, right wing. Yeah, he'd tick a box, wouldn't he? He'd tick a box. But he is it does feel like a warm body signing more than a player that brings us up a level, if that makes sense. 100% agree that we need an attacking format now. We absolutely do. Tom, we've improved everywhere. Goalkeeper, massive improvement. Defense, improved midfield, improved wingers. ACM, no improvement. Striker equals massive improvement. I think our 2 strikers, if they were to stay fit, and it is an if, It's a huge if. If DCL and Metja stay fit for this season, I think we've got 2 really good strikers in there, 2 Premier League level strikers for me. But the if is there. I think Daniel Farke knows that as well. I would take Mainu if it was realistic, so would I, if they agree to let him go on loan. If the striker was to come in, who would you want? I would like Demirovic, but Stuttgart sold that striker to Newcastle, so I think Demirovic is probably off the table. We'll take a big money. I mean, they just sold the striker for 60 million to Newcastle, who got 15 goals last season. Demirovic, arguably a better striker, would cost a lot more. We'd have to see. I would like to see Piero Sargent swap. Josh Sargent splits people down the middle. I'm not sold on Josh Sargent. And again, there's a question mark over injury history with him as well. Right now, he's perfectly fit, but there is that question mark, and that will be a third one with a question mark. Goal difference is currently -4. We're 11th in the table. We're desperate for some creativity. The goal difference is -4 because we conceded 5 against Arsenal, Steph. That can't keep happening. But we did fix it over the weekend with the 0-0 draw. It's such a pleasure to hear a level-headed person talking. I appreciate that, mate. I'm trying to keep my I won't be level-headed if we don't finish the window. Put it that way. Is it Pirlo for Hamer? I don't think so. Around 15 million spent on a forward line up 2 frees, I believe. Josh Brownhill is still floating around as a free transfer as well. And I like Josh Brownhill a lot. I know he doesn't excite an awful lot of player, but I think if his name was Josh Brownaldinho, people would be an awful lot more excited about him. I think the fact that the second name was Brownhill and not Brownaldinho is what upsets people, but he's a good player. And again, set pieces, he's a good 10. He's a leader. He's busy. He's a busy player. Covers an awful lot of ground. I like him a lot. He was said to like the Leeds project earlier in the window. So you could go get him done for free should you miss out on other targets. And I'd like him. I mean, in an ideal world, talking about Brownhill again, and again, players will have to leave for this. I would like to see Bakwa, Hamer, and Spertsyan come in. Those 3. Because I think that would create a lot of chances for Leeds. Attacking number 8 in Hamer, right winger in Bakwa, and the 10 in sorry, I'm looking at Striker's name here, and Spertsyan. But Brownhill then is another option if you couldn't get one of them. I think it would be really, really good. Joe, how is it Sunderland are spending so much money? Well, that will come out in the wash. They don't have the issues with PSR that we have because their squad wage budget was significantly lower than Leeds. Coming into the Premier League, Leeds had an incredibly high wage budget as it was. They didn't have that. So that's the situation. Their recruitment team just can't sell the project. And it's not an easy sell, Dave. And this is what I keep saying to people. You've got to take your Leeds United fan hat off, which is difficult. We're all in that boat. I get that. But you've got to take your hat off and look at this from a player's perspective, especially foreign players looking at coming to the Premier League. The last 2 seasons, Leeds United have been in the second tier of English football. The 2 seasons before that, Leeds were fighting a relegation battle in the Premier League. Take into context the last 2 years of all the teams that have been promoted. They've all been relegated. Every single one of them have been relegated straight away. So if you're trying to sell that to a player and go, oh yeah, but we're going to be different. All those teams probably said the same thing. And that's the context. And that's what's difficult. It's very difficult to sell this to people. Had you got an Igor Paixão early in the window, all of a sudden maybe it becomes a bit more easy to sell. Look, we've got a really talented player coming in. Then you add Noah Okafor to that. And all of a sudden there's international players coming in with Champions League experience. And that changes that narrative. But it's not an easy project to sell right now. Do you ever hear the options that you can't just have one target in any position? I think we need to have 2 in every position. I think they've got 3 or 4 on a list per position. The famous list. Surprised that we haven't looked at the Japanese market with the success of El. I mean, there's Daizan Maeda at Celtic, who, again, I like. Very good player. Watch an awful lot of them. Great thanks. Comment very sensible. Appreciate that. Winger is not good enough with Willie and James. I think Willie has potential to come into it. I really liked what I saw him against Newcastle. He's starting to get at people a bit more. That's all he needs to do. That's your personal opinion, Mark, but he's got Premier League experience. Jer, have you seen that there's private jets from Birmingham and Paris scheduled for lunchtime? I have seen that. We'll keep an eye on what that is. Lots of private jets do come into Leeds, though. As mentioned, DCL get injured, we have problems. We do. Again, we absolutely do. You're dead right. And that's why I think Farke wants another one. Josh Sargent can actually shoot. I know what the goal is. But again, injuries. So if people have got a problem with DCL's injury record and they've got a problem also with Calvert-Lewin's injury record, Josh Sargent has a pretty hefty injury CV. Do you want all 3 of them with injuries? You'd like somebody. And again, at the same time, somebody could come in with no injury record and get injured like that. You know, we've seen it with like Tanaka and Ampadu this season getting injured. You know, they weren't the players everyone was talking about with injuries. So we'll have to wait and see. Rob is saying player can come in if they want, if you can agree that price with the club. If the player doesn't want to come, the deal's off. That's exactly it. That's it. So that's where we are right now, folks. Lots of people there. Top of the morning. I go out to you as well, Anto. Maeda would have been my first choice after Peugeot. Yeah, he's a good player. There is the question mark around Scotland and England, and you can look very good in Scotland, very average in England, but we will have to see. Is there anything happening with Pirlo staying? I think he stays unless a striker comes in. I've been saying that he could go because I think if another striker comes in, and Mecha looks like he's first choice right now, and I'm okay with that. Calvert-Lewin looks like he's second choice until he can get up to full speed. Then you've got Joe Pirlo. If another striker comes in as a main striker, Joe Pirlo becomes fourth, and that's an expensive fourth choice striker, and he's not going to want to sit on the bench, and we could see what happens. How long till the window's off? It closes at 7 p.m. English time tonight, and we'll have to see where we are there. Right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. Massive thanks. We've gone for 46 minutes. Appreciate everyone coming in this morning. If you haven't liked the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We're on some sort of a quest towards 100,000 subscribers by the end of this season or this time next year. We've gone over 70,000 so far. Everything that you do in terms of subscribing and liking and sharing the video really does help the channel out. I appreciate that. We will be back tonight for the deadline day wrap-up stream starting at 6 p.m. and running all the way through to 8 p.m. for those final 2 hours. If you want to support a private content creator and not the big dogs at the BBC and other places who've now stepped into this void that will take stuff away from us, come and join me at 5 o'clock. We'll have a conversation. Michael Maynard from Canada, who usually contributes to the likes of NBC and CNBC on the Premier League in the US and always joins me on a deadline, will be joining me tonight. We'll have some other guests along to give their opinion on the window as well. And you can see me later on for that if you would like to. Keep it cool until it's not done. Until it's not done, there's always hope. And I know it's a silly thing to say, hope, but it is still there. And I won't go in on anybody just yet because I don't have to do a retraction of comments later on when they prove me wrong. But see where we are. If they don't get the window completed, by bringing in at least one good attacking player. If they can bring a right winger in who can also play 10, that fixes that 2 positions. But we'll have to wait and see. I will talk to you later on. Massive thank you again for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.